Welcome to Board Game Homies, where a group of friends play, review, and share about all things board games. Sitting around the table today are
Reed, Becky,
Gillian,
and I'm Angela. And today we have first, second, and third impressions of SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, aka a game that takes real-world alien science, but still won't let Pluto be a planet. But first, what games are bringing you joy?
for the last 6 months or so, every time I go to any board game store, I head over and pick up Cities and have been really wanting to buy it. And in the last week of the year, I ended up purchasing it, and we've actually gotten it to the table a couple times, and I've really been enjoying it. I really love De Beers games. I think that they pack a big punch for being in a small-ish box. And I like the weight of it. We usually tend to go for heavier games, and this is a pretty light game to play, and it has been definitely bringing me joy.
I appreciate your love of city building and planning and development because it comes through in a lot of games. And when you picked this one up, I was like, oh, really should just get this game. So I was excited that you got it and we got to play it. And it's so light and quick and breezy, but there's enough crunchy decisions when making your city that's fun.
I know nothing about it, and I think I'm the only one at this table that hasn't played it yet.
Well, I have it in my bag, so we can play it later.
I do really like that you can only choose one thing from each row. I haven't seen that in a lot of games, but just recently in Cities and Star Tycoon, where you're really limited to that, and that's kind of a fun thinking space as well.
Yeah, and I think it's also a really good intro to some of the mechanics of other games. So you have tile placement, you have worker placement, and kind of aligning resources or things like that you're collecting. And I just think it's a good light game that you can get to the table quickly with a lot of different people.
I'm still waiting for you to buy Salton Sea.
I have thought about it a lot.
It's going to be next year.
Yeah, she's on a banishment from buying games, Gillian. Don't encourage
I don't know,
that.
she's getting her fix by buying games for other people, though, so...
Okay, that might be true. So, happy every single holiday that people celebrate. Here's your Flag Day present.
So, Gillian, you're getting Salton Sea.
No, I don't want it on the shelf. It's too many games.
It's on Flag Day, you'll get it, though.
Let this be known that Gillian just said he had too many games, so just...
It's recorded now,
Yeah.
we know.
Yeah.
One of those games that's included in the Too Many Games is Creature Caravan, and that game is bringing me joy. That game has been sitting on our shelf for a while, and we finally got it to the table, and it's, I think, the first one in a while where after we played it the first time, I was like, oh, let's play it again. And then it was still out, and there was room for us to score one more time for a two-player game on the, one score pad, so I was like, let's play again. And then we showed it to you too and got to play a 4-player experience as well. But it's a lighter game. It is cute. The artwork is hit or miss, but on the cards, I would say it's hit or miss. But I think the components are great. We have the Kickstarter deluxe version. I'm looking at Gillian for confirmation.
Yeah, the deluxe edition.
And I love how it feels.
I like everything about the game. It fits a very nice, lightweight category that we don't have very many of in our collection. And I just found it a pleasure to play. You just build your tableau of folks in your caravan that'll augment your powers. It's a dice placement game, essentially. You roll the dice, you place the dice, you move your caravan, maybe, and try to establish camps on the map and eventually try to get to a safe haven city. And I've just really enjoyed every play we've had of it. Unlike Becky, I actually really like the art. It's very, it's just very nice. I would say appealing. It kind of fits the aesthetic of the setting, I think. And Ryan Lockett, the designer, artist, and artist of the game, did everything for this and a series of games. And all of his games are set in the same kind of world, essentially a different portion of the world. And I really admire or appreciate that he created this setting and does all the artwork and design for his games, and it's great. And I really like this one. This is the first Red Raven game I've played and Ryan Lockett design I've played, and I've really enjoyed it.
It's interesting because it has simultaneous play, which is a newer thing for us. And we just played Let's Go to Japan for the first time, which is also simultaneous. And I think Earth is simultaneous, which we have yet to get to the table. But it is a very different way of playing a game when you're all doing your things together and then moving forward together.
It continues the trend as well of the end objective is to get your caravan to this city. And when we played it, Reed staunchly refused to go to the very end of the caravan where you go. And I just love that about Reed. She's like, there's no point in getting to the end. What if I didn't, though? Or what if I didn't put creatures in my caravan, as the name of the game indicates I might want to do?
I thought we had one more day without realizing that we didn't.
My Joy game is, I would say, a classic in our collection. We've had it. It's one of our longest tenured games, I suppose you could say, in our collection. And that's Viticulture Essential Edition and the Tuscany Essential Edition expansion. Reed and I played 2-player, and it's been a long time since I've played it in person, and I just love the game. It's just something about it just vibes with me, and I really enjoy the worker placement component of it. The cards, building out your vineyard, making grapes and wines and selling them. It's just, I find it to be one of the more thematic worker placement games I've played, and I just find it a very pleasant experience every time, with a little bit of cutthroatness thrown in that unfortunately Reed was the victim of.
A little bit.
I think that Viticulture 2-player is the most cutthroat game for worker placement that I have played. And I know that I haven't played Brussels at 2-player, but I was so surprised that someone could block you from doing anything that you wanted to do. And I literally got stomped like a bunch of grapes in that.
And I think, and Gillian, maybe you know, the original edition, or maybe it was the demo edition, didn't even include the Grande worker.
The original design didn't include the Grande worker, and that was then included in the Essential Edition. And in the Essential Edition, it cut back a lot of additional, modules that were part of the original game. And that I think maybe they're available for print and play, but yeah, they're not published anymore. That was, I think, kind of a cheesery and stuff like that you could build onto your vineyard. But yeah, they made some changes in the Essential Edition to make it more streamlined. And in my opinion, I think Tuscany is also very much necessary for the game. The base game of Viticulture is enjoyable, but it's definitely lower in my ranking. But as soon as you add Tuscany, it elevates it quite a bit. And it's one of my, I'd say, still in my top 10 games of all time.
Yeah, kind of a game culture shock after we played Viticulture in person and then played it on BGA. And you're just like, whoa, this is very different. I still really like it on BGA. I still play it. And then when I play in person, I'm shocked because it is really, really great. Like, that's the edition that I want.
Gillian is always really thoughtful when it comes to putting music on that tends to pair with what we're playing. And that really also contributes to the theme of Viticulture and just enhances the experience to have this like kind of Italian winery sounding music.
The game bringing me joy is Star Tycoon. We got a play of this last night. It is the game that Gillian got me for Christmas, and it has a variable economic market. I can't wait to do a deep dive. I feel like this game has flown under the radar, and it's basically you're just building a tableau and then tucking cards underneath each of them, and then things activate. It's things that you've seen before, but just done in a really clean, fun, you're off in your own, literally different worlds, creating a capitalist corporation for space. And it's got these little great upgraded components that Gillian got as well. And it just was really fun. And I just was like, wow, I never would have seen this game, and I hadn't heard anything about it. So I just have a lot of joy that Gillian brought that game into my life and into our communal collection.
I'm really glad you enjoy it. I saw it and I almost bought it for myself as well. But then I was like, no, we'll have it in our joint collection. I'll get to play it. So, but I really enjoyed our play of it as well.
Of all of the games that are thrown around in different people's collections, this is the one that I'm restraining myself the most from buying, because I I love space games. I love evil corporations. They're not that they're a little evil in this one, but there's just so much that the play is really succinct, and it's challenging. Like it maybe is a lighter game than some of the ones that we play, but you feel every single point that you get, and I like that.
And every single card that somebody pilfers from you, like when they steal the tag that you needed to complete your corporation's goal.
Or they steal literally your goods from you. Becky, looking your way. It's really fun. Fun when that happens.
But she does it in a Becky way where she's like, Angela, I'm going to take that, but then you get a benefit from it, even if you wanted that one.
Yeah, it's like saying that when you get shanked in the back, you have a new breathing hole. It's like the silver lining.
You are so welcome.
SETI, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, released in 2024, plays 1 to 4 players. It's designed by Tomas Holek and has art by a variety of artists in CGE. It's published by Czech Games Edition. Gillian, how do we play SETI?
In SETI, players lead scientific institutions tasked with searching for traces of life beyond the planet Earth. To do this, players will utilize several actions. One of these actions is launching probes from Earth. Once you've launched a probe, you can then move it throughout the system as planetary positions shift. Once you encounter a planet, you can decide whether to land on planets to search for traces of life or orbit the planet for a broader survey. Eventually, you may also be able to land on moons orbiting planets, though that requires an investment in technology back on Earth. Another action is to scan systems. You do this from Earth. Scanning will allow you to gain data disks from systems beyond Earth. Be the institution to scan the systems the most thoroughly, and you'll make a discovery of alien life. Once you've collected enough data, you can then use another action to analyze the data via supercomputers. This will allow you to identify another trace of alien life. Another thing that you can do is to advance your own technology. You do that by utilizing publicity. And to gain publicity, you need to send probes out into the solar system, encounter planets and comets and other features there. And once you do that, you're able to advance technology for one of the aforementioned actions, such as launching probes, orbiting or landing, scanning systems from Earth, and so on. In addition to the aforementioned actions, you'll also be able to leverage cards to aid you in your efforts and focus your research for additional bonuses and rewards. These cards are multi-use and can either be played for their main ability as an action, which typically costs credits, or they can be discarded as a free action to gain the resource on the upper left corner of the card. Once 3 separate traces of life are discovered for a certain extraterrestrial life form, those being yellow, gained by landing probes on planets, pink traces of life gained by scanning systems, and blue traces gained by analyzing data, the alien species will be discovered and an alien board will be revealed. The alien boards provide new means to interact and study the aliens with additional rules, cards, and occasionally tokens added to the game. If you are among those that found the initial traces of the extraterrestrial species, you'll have an immediate bonus with that alien species. Utilize the resources at your disposal well, and you may make the biggest scientific contribution toward advancing our understanding of alien life within our galaxy.
From a production standpoint, I think this is another home run hit by CGE. The components are the same that they used for Kutna Hora, just in terms of like the rewood and the replastic that they implemented this time. There are sustainable sources of materials that you can use. The board is really pretty. I like the colors as you go around the galaxy. The cards are gorgeous. Just a lot of thought and development. It certainly is a table hog when you put it down because the board has this like 3-layer spinning mechanism. So every time you like use your publicity, it'll cause the galaxy to shift, and that shifting of the galaxy is used in like these circles that move around, and I'm afraid to touch them, but they're surprisingly sturdy, more so even than like the spinning wheel in Barrage. Sometimes a tile will move and then it clank, and I'm like, oh, it's not turning good. I've not seen that same problem in SETI, and there's a little sun in the center that's like, I want it to be squishy, but it's not. So from a production, I think it's great.
Any comments that I have on the production are really nitpicky. Like, it is such a well-made game, and my biggest thing is that I tend to be the yellow player, and the yellow is kind of a golden yellow, a mustard yellow, and it doesn't color match perfectly. Some places it shows up as orange when it's on paper, and then the rewood or replastic, whatever it is the more kind of golden color. And that is a very finicky thing to be complaining about when it comes to a game.
No, I think there are things you can, I think that's totally valid, as well as when you scan the skies for sending out like a signal, there is the option to do an additional scan based on the cards that are in the market row, even though I say market row, you can't officially buy them. And there are two symbols that really, really look alike. It's like a dot or a line that's slightly different. And I can't always tell, so I have to lean across the board to really be able to see what the difference is between those two signals. And they're the only ones. The rest of the symbols I can tell pretty easily what it is, but that is just, again, I think a small thing, but something that would have made the game easier is if they had really differentiated those two signals.
I will say that beyond just the aesthetics of the game, the player aid that's provided is amazing. It outlines every single symbol that you'll encounter throughout the game and what it means, and it's just amazing. And also details the end game scoring goals or tiles, and it blew me away. And it's a little pamphlet that each player has that's easy to reference.
With that, too, the rule book is really great as well. It's very thematic. The whole game is thematic, and even the rule book. Like, the back of it is a clipboard with information on it that you can reference during the game. And they really, like, took up space with art and the different pieces and really, like, I hope this makes sense, but, like, they took their time going through the rules instead of just, like, here's a very condensed version of how to play the game, but they really like use the space to break it down. And it's just visually very pleasing.
Yeah, you went to look up a rule, and usually if I don't own the game, or if I'm not setting it up, I don't read the rule book. I leave that to who is ever teaching, and that was you and Gillian. And I saw the rule book and I was blown away. I was like, wow, this is really great. Like, the examples were super clear. Like you said, the player aid was amazing. It's the best attention to detail in player aid and rule book. And you wouldn't think those things are big, but they are important. And it kind of made me want to own the game just from the point of view of like, I love a good rule book. This is great. I could teach this better.
The game relies a lot on symbology, and that makes the player aid essential when you're playing. I often take time in between my turn to look up what card I have, think through what I want to do, and get a better understanding of what I can do as a result. And I think it's really, really useful for that. And the other side of that, and I don't know if this is a components or a gameplay, is that the symbology at times is really, really heavy. And some of them are kind of similar, or you have to see how the card reads. And fortunately, there's enough information provided, but I do spend a lot of time looking up what each symbol means.
I definitely was really overwhelmed the first game that we played by all the symbology, even with the booklet. Like, I was referencing it the entire first game that I played. And I think there is something that visually ties together, like the main actions and whatnot, but my brain never really put things together and like, oh, when I see this, it means this kind of thing I can do, or it's a free action or a main action. And so I also like still get confused about how much it's going to cost me to land on a planet or do a satellite sometimes. So I think they did a really nice job with it, but I also think that it's easy to get lost in that symbology. I mean, I think the second time I played, I barely looked at the reference guide, but there are a lot of symbols.
Yeah, I guess to contrast, I found it fairly easy to gather things. The one caveat being the main actions, those being launch, scan, and analyze. Those have their color-coded symbols with the little satellite and the spaceship on there. But then there's also the upgrade one, which has, I think, the same symbol on it, but it has different design. And I got those mixed up a couple of times when I was trying to plan it, like one that meant advanced technology in this versus the action. And so that was the one that caught me up, or that I got caught up on.
My favorite thing to do in a game is to shove my card into Gillian's face and be like, what does this do? And then Gillian goes, that's handy card. You could do this with it. And I'm like, great, I'm going to play this next time. As to contrast Reed will cover 97% of the card with her hands and be like, what does this one thing mean? So she gives away no information. And I just don't care.
It's to help me win.
Information is power.
When you're playing against Becky, it is.
And Gillian. That's who I learned it from. You can't tell him anything.
I also really I always enjoy it when games do this, but in this one in particular, I've always had a love for astronomy, and it's really great to see the little blurb, like factoids that are in there, the sentence or two under each image that just gives an overview of what it represents. And even the ones that aren't necessarily real, that they just kind of hypothetically made, they gave some cool like flavor text for. And so I've enjoyed reading those as we play too.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things, to be honest with you, is that connection to back to the real world.
The cards are definitely a high point. I think I made this statement when we were playing, that the backs of the cards are really lovely, and they are probably one of the most attractive backs of cards. They actually spent time on that, which I think is great. The cards themselves are very multi-use. They are used for both like an action card. They also allow you to do some movement or go up on certain tracks or take certain resources. And then they also have mid-goal achievement or mid-game achievements and end goal. And they also, there's so many things that they do. They also help determine where you can scan from the, Angela called it the market, but the common card area, I guess. And so they have so many different uses. I did get a little lost in there at times and was discarding cards that maybe I should have kept for the mid-game achievements or end goals. But in general, a really good use of placing different information on different aspects of the card or different areas of the card.
They also have something on the bottom for your income when you tuck them.
I forgot about that because I did not get very much income.
That's a gameplay component that fascinates me, and we saw kind of the same in Kutnahora to a lesser degree from CGE, where you could play one of two actions and you were limited. This was the same way. I'm always trying to play the game thinking about, well, do I need this for the income thing? And the income can be you get a card, you get a credit, or you get energy. And sometimes if you're lucky, you get a little like technology token as your income. But that creates a dynamic balance for cards in your hand. And since resources feel excruciatingly tight in the first couple of rounds, weighing whether or not to discard cards to do something like move a satellite versus playing it for its action or its end goal is, I think, actually the funnest part of this game is that really tight beginning before you get your engine going. And your engine never gets going so that you get like 9 credits and 15 energy. They're like, cool, what if you played the whole game and every round you had $3? That's the kind of tightness that is fun for me.
Before we go too far into the gameplay, I do want to point out, which I actually thought this is what Gillian was going to say. He was very excited about what he loves when games do. But the player board is dual layered, and we are all such nerds for that. But it's really lovely the way that it's printed, and it's also just like I think, a tactile joy. You get the re-plastic data that you are building up on there, so you can do one of the actions. You're also slotting in the technology in there to upgrade all of your actions. Like, it's just very visually pleasing and also really great to touch and move things.
Yeah, regarding the rewood components, the one thing that was kind of a blemish on the game was it just came with one of a damaged white probe, essentially. And I reached out to CGE regarding a replacement. They got back to me within 2 days, and a week later they had sent it out. And so that was fantastic. And given that they were sending it out from the Czech Republic, I'd also inquired, like, hey, I see that you have the Pluto promo card on your website. Can I buy it from there too and get that shipped along there? Yeah, no problem. And so I managed to get that without having to pay shipping because I had a damaged component. But as far as I know, you can't get the Pluto promo in the US just yet.
I will say 2 things. One, on the Pluto promo card, it still states that Pluto is not a planet, unfortunately. Shout out RIP Pluto. And then 2, even though that one piece is really kind of mangled, I love her so much, and she's always the first, because that's the player color I get to be. I always put her out first so that she can explore the galaxy, because I'm afraid that when we get the replacement, she's going to go away. And I love her.
Well, it's just your startup fees were so low that you couldn't afford a nice probe. You just had to throw trash out into the ether.
She's disintegrating in space.
She really is.
Speaking of space, one thing that's really enjoyable about the game is how the player interaction in a way, because what I do may affect what Becky chooses to do, which may affect what Reed does, and it's just kind of a chain reaction of how things go. For instance, I may, as one of my first things, I may launch a probe and then immediately orbit a planet like Mars. That may make it more enticing for somebody to go land, because if there's a satellite orbiting the planet, it makes it cheaper to land a probe there. And so that I found that shifting priorities as people make decisions and throw things onto like planets or around planets, making things cheaper or whatnot, I found really appealing in the game.
I do really like how much the solar system rotating affects your decisions about the game. It can be infuriating if people keep moving you away from where you want to go. But like at the beginning of my turn, I always have to think like, okay, do I need to get my probe out now and moved over to that planet? Or am I looking around to see if somebody's close to cashing in their
Publicity.
I was like, microphones, popularity, cashing in their publicity to upgrade and move the solar system, and then using that to my benefit. And so that's like a nice thing to be thinking about. When I think about SETI, I don't think there's a ton of player interaction, but everyone is moving around on the board and moving the board and taking up spaces where I would like to be.
The biggest source of player interaction, I think, is the race for the end game goals. And that can be huge because the first space may grant you 11 per set of income that you have, for instance, whereas second place will give you 8 per instance. And so that could be fairly swingy in terms of, or that could help determine who wins the game, is just that multiplier that you get. And so that race is definitely there, and it's startling when somebody starts screaming ahead in points immediately, and meanwhile you're just here orbiting a planet like, what's going on?
It is interesting that in order to claim end goal capability or the ability to score end goals, when you cross certain point thresholds, then you're able to pause and put your token on an end goal that you think that you're going to score well on. And for some reason, I love end goals and really struggle with these. And I think that's because I'm getting a grasp of the game, and the end goals aren't necessarily how I've played the game to that point. So you try and figure out which end goal matches the best that you're doing, but it's challenging. Like I put my end goal marker on having card objectives done, and did not have any cards that had objectives done, or if I did, I had discarded them and forgot about them. But it is hard to pick when you cross like a 50-point threshold and there's going to be 150 points in the game where you think you're going to do the best.
Well, and the first marker is at 25. So if you scream up that track really quickly, but you don't have, you're making a decision first, but with less information for how your game is shaping up. And the end objectives aren't anything that are necessitated by have 18 satellites orbiting Mars. That would never happen. You don't have that many satellites. But it's really about kind of, you've completed this number of objectives on your cards. You've tucked this number of credit units under. So it's not necessarily like you visited Jupiter X number of times. So it doesn't dictate where you go per se, but what you do tuck or don't tuck, or what you complete, which is kind of interesting for an end game objective.
Yeah, I often use those as a way to frame my early game as well. Like the last game we played, which didn't really pan out for me, but looking at it, it was for every two, as Reed said, for every 2 cards that you have with completed objectives or end game goals, you get victory points. And I use that to, in the first turn or two, place down a couple of objective cards, or ones that would, that I could complete throughout the game and get benefits from. But then I wasn't able to use them to discard, to move my probes around. And so it ended up hampering me a bit. But yeah, certainly trying to use those to kind of frame my game plan is what I aim for. It doesn't always work out.
I think a lot of the tension that I feel instead of those end game goals are the competition for the points that you get that are on the aliens that you discover, or on the, like, when you're in, after you've launched or you're trying to go into outer space and you're looking for moon points or planet points or orbiting points or alien points. That's where I see the most tension, where I'm like, oh, that's worth 25 points. I want to get there. And then I'm always not the first person there, and you get blocked out of most spots. It's only 1 probe per spot. So it is quite a lot of competition there.
Well, it is on the moons where there can only be 1. And so some people are moon thieves, looking at the table. But I do appreciate that the game, whilst I feel like we stared at our cards for a while the first couple of games, you can kind of plan your moves ahead, even though the game is shifting. But there will be times where you're about to do something, or you were going to do something in 2 moves that somebody sneaks out and does it in front of you. That leads to a lot of tension and anger.
That was you. I worked really hard to get some sort of token or something like that you needed to be able to do something else. And I needed 1 more turn. And in that 1 more turn, you were like, plop, here is my probe on this 25-point spot.
That was me, actually.
Yeah, I think both of you did it to me. There were 3 25 spots, and Angela got 2 and Gillian got 1, and it was very upsetting.
Yeah, and to get the token that you needed, I went to the planet that had it.
I know, but that was my plan.
It was a good
planet.
Good plan for that planet, Reed, for sure.
Becky and I have played this at 2 players, and then I think 3 players once, and a couple times at 4 players. And each player count is different. 2 players was less interactive, mainly because one of the big actions in the game is scanning. And so when you scan, you're able to collect data tokens from outer systems and put them on your kind of little 6-spot bank that you have on your player board. And in a 2-player game, that's kind of a zero-sum game where it's one of the 2 of us is scanning, and so it takes a while to complete a system to kind of score or reveal that alien trace of alien life. In a 4-player game, it's very dynamic. I felt like there were a lot of interactions there where I would scan, and then somebody would come and finish up that track that I was working on, or vice versa. I would just sneak in and finish a track that somebody was working on. And so that interaction was a lot more fun at higher player counts. But yeah, the scanning is more dynamic, certainly at higher counts.
The only difference that I recall in the 2-player game is that once we hit certain point thresholds, then a dummy marker goes out to mark some of the traces of alien life. So it helps us make sure we get the aliens revealed. But I definitely wish that there were some other changes for 2-player, either like a different board or even just a mechanism that makes it so you have less data that you need to collect to complete a sector when you're scanning, because that part definitely was lacking, I felt, in our 2-player game. And I don't really foresee that getting better between 2 players, but it still was an enjoyable play at 2.
I did a deep dive on researching how to play it solo in the case that I had an opportunity to play it solo, and it takes a lot of time. Like, I think people said that it was still like multiple hours to play it solo, and that's a long time to play a solo game.
The first game of SETI that we played 4-player, it took us about 2 hours and 40 minutes. And then after that, like, each game was a little bit less, and we got pretty close to 2 hours exactly for a game. In 2 hours, I feel like you can fit a lot of game into 2 hours. And so that's one of the things with SETI that I've been kind of reflecting on. This game, like, I think it's great, and I think it's kind of like I wouldn't say light, but like kind of on the lighter end of medium. And maybe I'm totally wrong about that.
Oh,
like,
you-
I feel
you
like I'm
are
seeing
so
a lot
wrong.
of blank faces here.
You're so wrong.
Am I? Wait,
It's like a medium heavy game.
is it?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I guess that makes sense, but
It's not heavy medium, it's
Okay.
medium heavy.
okay.
You're just crunchy competent, Becky.
Am I? Okay.
But I agree with that in a sense. When we, right now there's Lisboa under the table, which is a Vital Lacerda game. And I think I maybe have consumed 10 hours of how to play content to feel mildly competent. And for SETI, CGE does a good how to play video, but it doesn't feel, if you've played games before, it doesn't feel so overwhelming. Like, Gillian was pretty confident we would just pick it up quickly. So I get where it can feel a little light, even though it's a medium heavy game. The time, though, that it takes to play the whole game is, our first game was really long. Like, it felt long.
Still shorter than our first game of Kanban EV, but still very long.
It's true. I think that this was already said, but it takes place over 5 rounds, and they have indeterminate number of turns. And so that means that as long as you can play, you can keep going. But if you finish your turn, you have to wait until everyone is finished with their turn before the round moves on, because it triggers different things like resource production, and the main thing being you select cards, special cards, not special cards, but just from a deck of cards. As you finish, you get to select an order of which you finish. And there ended up being quite a bit of downtime. I would say that between rounds, it was about 5 minutes or so, which isn't that long, but kind of sitting, waiting for people to finish a turn. And then at the end of the game, the last 2 games that we played, I was out about 20 minutes before everybody else was. And that was a long time.
Yeah, it has a little bit of that Everdell component where, at least in Everdell, you get to move to the next season. So you get to go do maybe the next thing while everybody else is still playing the same season. So your wait time is all consolidated at the end, whereas like at the end of the round, you're collecting all of your new set of resources, and then you're just watching everybody finish, and depending how long that takes, can be a while. I also think this game, when you reveal the aliens, it is the coolest thing. It's the thing we haven't talked about yet. But you're going to reveal aliens during this game, and there's a lot of, I wonder what we're going to get. This is so cool. And also, the first few times you play it, until you really know who and what those aliens and what they do and how they act, it's the stoppage in the middle of a game. So you're going into this good flow, and then you have to stop, go to the box, read up on the alien that you've brought out, bring out new components that either go on the board or the set of cards have to be passed out. And so it's weird to take a pause in the middle of a board game and say, okay, now we're activating something new. And I found that to be kind of a time suck in itself.
Yeah, that breakage in the game flow is definitely jarring. But since we've gotten to know the aliens, I'd say that's a lot less than it used to be. Like the first couple games we played was new aliens, where it was like we have to stop and read the rules for them and understand what they do. That was more time consuming, but now I think the four of us have seen all the aliens at this point. So I think we'd be fairly confident that we could go in and without much overhead, just kind of pull out the cards, distribute the cards, and be ready to go. And any tokens, of course, that are associated with the alien species.
Yeah, but it can certainly drag out your first game because you're trying to play. I would assume that's everybody's longest play is when they first play the game. And then you're like, and on top of that, here's some more time. And I do think it remedies itself if you get 6, 7, 8 plays in. And even the downtime that Reed had at the end of our second game, you did some massive move and Becky just looked at you and said, you're using every resource you have to do this big move. You don't have anything left to do, and you were out a couple of turns after that. So I wonder if us getting to know the game more will alleviate some of that downtime, or if it's just going to be a component of the game.
I think that would be how to improve on that would have been aligning the end game goals a little bit better so that I knew how to maximize those points, because I was really ahead at that point and then you all scored really well on your end game objectives, but I was like, there's nothing that I can do with what I have in any combination that can give me more than 25 points, which is what I was going to get by using all my resources. But had I planned out a lot better and been hitting some of those other objectives, I probably could have done it differently.
Okay, I alluded to it 5 seconds ago when I said the aliens are really cool when they come out. How did you guys feel about the aliens popping up and what they do and how, without as many spoilers, although to be fair, you're probably, if you buy this game, going to look in the box and be excited about it.
Overall, I enjoyed the aliens that came out, the little twists that they provided to the game. There was one in particular that I think around this table we would all agree was a little more difficult to interact with than others.
That alien comes out, boo. Oh, I hate that guy.
Just because it required a lot of work for not a lot of gain. And that was probably the only one that I didn't like. I have my favorites, of course, mainly just in terms of like ease of use. That said, I think all of them are fairly easy in terms of their tracks that they have available, where you can go to a track to get 5 points and a card, or you can go to a track to get 5 points and a token of some variety that may help you interact with that alien. And so as going back to like learning the aliens, I think once you've played with them, one thing that helps, I guess, learning them as you encounter them for the first time is that the tracks are largely similar, like across the aliens, so they're not completely wild and different, though they do have some nuances here and there that make it unique.
It is a new point in the game when the aliens are unveiled, because it's not just that you can get like 1 or 2 points. Like you could dramatically change the trajectory of the game once the aliens are unveiled, because they offer, for the most part, so many different ways of scoring relatively highly or accessing resources, which is pretty interesting. I have to remind myself too that often I'm like, oh, why are we doing this? And then you all reminded me that like thematically you're collecting data and then, oh, you discovered aliens. So it is this kind of moment that the game is building toward.
What I really appreciate about that is if you are one of the initial institutions to discover a trace of life for that alien, you get a bonus immediately when that alien is revealed in the form of a card generally. And I really enjoy that because it's, you're working for you don't know what, but then it's unveiled, you discover what it is, and everyone that, say, contributed research to it gets something as a result. And I really appreciate that being from the academic background.
I actually like that part more than I thought that I would, because there are so many times where you help to get somewhere in a game and somebody just like goes in and yoinks it, and it's like, no, you get a benefit for being part of the foundational team that did that, and it makes you feel better when you're given a card. It just doesn't go to one person.
It's great to shame the one person that didn't get it generally. Like, oh, Angela didn't help find this alien. Ha!
I was like, looks at Angela. It's like, oh, that is really important. I thought when I heard a lot about this game, and right now, if you listen to kind of some of the consensus, SETI is probably the top game of 2024. That or ARCs are vying for number 1 and 2 in people's hearts. I had heard about the aliens and I was like, is this just going to be a gimmick? Like, is this just, ooh, cool, you pull a thing out of a box? I think I underestimated how changing mechanics in the middle of a game to new objectives would feel. And I actually kind of like it because as Reed loves an end goal, the end goals are kind of unclear because when I scored on one alien, over 50 points, that meant I had a really clear objective of when they came out, what I was going to do. But it also means that when the second alien is revealed, people are kind of making a choice of where they want to go. And I remember our first game, everyone looked at the other alien and was like, nah, I'm good.
Except for me.
Except for Gilead. And then eventually we all kind of drifted over. But just because you reveal 2 doesn't mean you have to do anything with them. Or maybe one alien becomes highly competitive for points. So you go and you work on objectives for the other one. And I was surprised how much I enjoyed that. Ooh, cool. Surprise in the middle. And now the game feels settled. And you can go, okay, now the end game objectives have really been revealed. And off I go. And that's just neat.
Back to Reed's point a bit, though, like, even though the aliens are super thematic and like what Gillian was describing, like the mechanics of getting the aliens and the rewards for being part of it, so thematic for the game, there have been times when I'm kind of playing the game and I'm like, you don't really need the aliens minus what the theme is for this game. Like, I feel like it could have been just like a track, like kind of in Terra Mystica where you just have different tracks you're going up. And I think they easily could have done that and it wouldn't have like a break in the flow. But at the same time, thematically, it makes so much sense to do it the way that they did it. And I do think that they did it well. And especially once you get used to the aliens, it doesn't really hinder anything. And the cards that the aliens have are awesome. I kind of disregarded them the first 2 games that I played. And then the last 2, I really leaned into them. And those cards are super cool. They're very different than the regular deck.
And they gave you the win, Becky.
It's true, but in that game, my winning score was very close to my losing score in the game before, so I don't know how to feel about it.
Did you do great, or did we all just do poorly?
I don't know.
A win's a win, Becky. The app only remembers that you have won.
One thing that I looking ahead, I'm really excited for the prospect of expansions for the game because an easy way for them to do is introduce more aliens. Just like print from like small packs of, the alien boards plus tokens and cards associated with that. And I feel like that's a very easy way to expand the game without adding, a lot to the rules of the game. So I look forward to that. Hopefully they have those in the wings.
And with that, like, potential replayability, like, I think the game itself does have quite a bit of replayability. And I think one of the major things that does that for me is I feel like you can't do everything really well in your game. You kind of have to focus on 1 or 2 things that you really hone in on and then kind of dabble in everything else. Because I really don't enjoy a game where you can literally do everything to the very top every single game. For me, think about Endless Winter. So I really like that about this game.
Yeah. And different avenues you can take and approach the game differently is very fun. In the last game, I tried to not analyze any data the entire game. It was very hard because the previous games I went fairly heavy into that. But I just wanted to launch and land probes. That's all I wanted to do. And I focused on that and I did okay points-wise. But it was fun to try different strategies.
I mean, you missed that sweet scanning technology, though.
I know,
I'm sure.
I know. If Reed didn't land on Neptune, I would have won the moon of Neptune.
See, that's why I needed to take that big action at the end just to get that moon.
Is that going to be your MO? Like every game? Just go to that moon every time.
I thought you were going to say, like, just messing you over.
No.
You should definitely do that.
Yeah.
Then one day Becky's going to turn to you and say, Reed, I don't think that's how you win the game. And
I was agreeing with you, Angela.
No, it would be more like I'm so used to going to Neptune that Becky would be like, but I need to go to it. But I'm going to slide it over here and be like, I'm so sorry, I'm going to your moon. That's more of what would happen. Thinking about building hype and excitement around this game, I think that Czech Games Edition did a really good job in what they released marketing-wise, and we got to see a lot of content developed around it, and then it was really backed up by people who had the opportunity to play it, deciding that they wanted to buy it or that it came into like one of their top games of the year or favorite plays, and I think that that's really exciting. I know it's not available for everyone yet, so not everybody is going to be able to get their hands on it because it is taking a little bit of time to ship, but it does seem like it ended up being a very prominent game of the year, and Czech Games did a really good job on like promoting that.
yeah, I like that about Czech Games Edition. Again, they're one of my favorite publishers. I don't think every game that they make is for me, but I appreciate the kind of the connectivity they have when they talk about their big release of the year. Just the fact that they do really great playthroughs, or they'll talk about the production, they'll take you behind the scenes to the factory, or how they're setting up for something like Gen Con or Essen. It's a publisher that really lets you in. Again, I probably mentioned this, there's a great YouTube series about Czech Games Edition and how they started. And I think the proof is in the pudding with their releases of they just really care about games and developing unique and interesting games that are done well. And I think that's why they're probably top 3 publisher for me. Even if I don't love every single game, it's just, I really respect their brand.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed CGE games in general, from Galaxy Trucker to Alchemists. Those were 2 of our early ones, and then Dungeon Pets is one we got very early on. So we've definitely followed them for quite some time, and all of their games have had fantastic productions overall. Yeah, I'm just echoing everything you said, Angela.
I think that this is such, well, I love space. Like, I love space as a theme in general, but I think that this has the making to be a classic game. The play is fun, the game is well produced, and it's something that I can see coming to the table again and again and again, and hopefully will resolve the dead player time at the end. But I just think that this is a really like classic game, emerging as a classic game for me.
Yeah, it's a hard one for me because I wouldn't necessarily play SETI with our other game group. It is medium heavy. And even though I think if you understand the mechanics of a lot of things, you should dip your toe in. It's a big game. It's a big game to set up. It's a big game to clean up. But I don't know who else I would play this game with. Like, who is this game really for?
Obviously, it's for crunchier players. But I think if you, like you were saying, if you kind of already know the mechanics that are being used, I think if you love a space game like we do around this table, I think it's approachable. I think the way that they set up the rule book, the videos that are available to learn how to play, like I definitely think you don't have to just be a crunchy gamer, but I do think loving a space game also helps. And part of that too for me is the time. Like 2 hours, I still think kind of feels like a lot for what this game is. Like, I don't know, maybe there's something like meaty that I think it's missing, but I wish this game was more like an hour and a half, and maybe we'll get there. But yeah, I think if you love a space game, you can make it work. But if you're just like into light games and party games, probably don't play SETI.
Also, if you're a fan of Euro games, I think this is one of the few instances of highly thematic Euro games, and how the theme actually shines in the game and the mechanics. And so that's who I'd recommend it to. And it's not beige.
Thank you for listening to Board Game Homies. Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and drop us a line at our Instagram page at Board Game Homies. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
And then a random dude.
Who's not associated with Becky at
Yeah,
all.
just on his
Yeah,
own.
we should have done that as the pod name. 3 ladies and a random guy.
It sounds like we swap out the guy, though.
And that's the way it should be, Becky.
Oh.
I'm pretty attached to this one.
He can watch us play.
No, but he sets up the games and teaches
No,
us.
I was like, I can't give up Killian.
We all have our roles to play.
You can cut any of that if you're like,
I always do.
okay.
Wow.
I make choices.
Well, that was a really great podcast.
Yeah, I was like,
we did it.